Welcome to the Midwest. Well, maybe this isn't the Midwest you're thinking of. This is Michigan's Upper Peninsula, a hidden gem brimming with natural beauty, scenic drives, and rich history. From underground mine tours to breathtaking views of Lake Superior's rugged coastline, to the winding roads that connect the region's historic small towns and top destinations, there is so much to see, eat, and do in the UP. And for the next 5 days, I'll be exploring as much of it as I can fit into this unforgettable fall road trip.
I think I timed this trip perfectly. The leaves are absolutely peaking. Highly recommend.
This video was made possible by Dairyland Motorcycle Insurance. Dairyland has offered competitive rates and quality coverage for motorcycle insurance for nearly 60 years. They also offer educational resources, financial flexibility, and personalized options to get you on the road quickly.
Good morning from the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. I'm starting my trip off here in Houghton, which is kind of the southern end of the Keweenaw Peninsula. By the way, it's Houghton, not Houghton. I'm going to be taking my time pretty slowly through here. I'm going to be spending about 6 to 7 days total checking out the entire Upper Peninsula. You can obviously go through this area much faster if you want, but there's a lot of things that I do want to see. So I'm going to go ahead and slow my roll. And plus, it is fall, which is my favorite season, as y'all know, and I enjoy seeing all the leaves. Everything is just so vibrant up here, and yeah, I'm just so excited to spend a week taking you guys along for the ride with me as well. So, now before I get too far in this video, we should talk about planning a trip to the UP in the fall, because let me tell y'all, it's not easy. I was actually supposed to be up here last week because that's usually when the leaves begin to peak out here in the UP. However, leaves turned a little bit later this year. Today's October 16th and the leaves are absolutely peaking. It is so beautiful, and I can't wait to show y'all some of the scenic drives around here because it is just gorgeous. Yesterday I went to Lake of the Clouds overlook on my way up here, and the high all day yesterday was 45 degrees. First official stop is going to be Lake of the Clouds overlook here in the Porcupine Mountains. I've heard it's really pretty, and it better be because it's 45 degrees outside. As soon as I got off the bike, put gloves and a beanie on, so let's go check it out. This was totally worth it. I had heated gear on all day yesterday, and I'm so glad to be able to shed those layers today. So yeah, it is a little cold up here and the weather's a little unpredictable, so planning a trip up here is definitely a little finicky. At one point yesterday, I also had to ride in the rain for about 100 miles and it was 40 degrees outside. So yeah, just something to be aware of if you want to come up here and check the fall colors out as well on a bike. But I definitely haven't seen a lot of other motorcycles out. But to get this trip started, we're going to be doing a lot of mining stuff today. This area is known for mining, and I wanted to go ahead and start the trip off with a pasty over at Roy's. So let's go ahead and grab breakfast, and then I think I'll come back over here, honestly, and eat it because it's just beautiful over here. So let's go grab some breakfast. I love that I can see my breath right now, but it's actually pretty warm out. The temperature's kind of playing tricks on you right here on the water because Lake Superior is just right over here. A pasty is like the official food of the Upper Peninsula. It's Upper food, as some people call it. Pasties are just tied into mining history up here in the UP, which we'll be doing a lot of today. So I figured it was just, like I said, the perfect way to kick this trip off. Now, there are traditional pasties. This one is a breakfast pasty, so it has like eggs in it and sausage and a couple of other things. This is basically, it's like a little hot pocket, and the miners used to take them down into the mines. If you watched one of my Montana videos, I talked about this before riding over Lolo Pass, and I got kind of a traditional style pasty there, and it came with some gravy and whatnot. But so far, this is really good, and I'm not gonna be able to eat all of this or I'm gonna get real sleepy at our next stop, which is the Quincy Mine Tour. You can actually see the top of the mine, like right here behind me, which is really cool. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this finished up here, and we'll head over to the tour next. already mentioned to y'all that I wanted to do some mining history exploring today, and I figured what better way to kick off the trip than with a mine tour of the iconic Quincy mine. This building right here behind me is actually like the crown jewel, like the iconic thing of the Keweenaw Peninsula. But mining in general is just such an iconic and important part of this region's history. And there's all different mines all over the region that you can tour. But this one is definitely one of the ones that was high on my list. And they had availability this morning. So I went ahead and rushed over here, put on some colder weather clothes because it's 43 degrees in the mine and it's 2 hours long. So let's go ahead and get over here so they don't leave without me.
Copper mining in Michigan's Keweenaw Peninsula dates back over 7,000 years when indigenous people began mining copper. However, industrial mining began in the mid-1800s when large-scale operations like the Quincy Mining Company emerged, turning the Keweenaw into one of the world's leading copper producers. The discovery of the Pewabic lode made Quincy the second largest mining company in the area by the 1880s, and at closing in 1945, Quincy's famous shaft number 2 plunged over 6,000 vertical feet into the ground, making it one of the deepest mines in the world at the time. The Quincy Mine Tour takes you underground to see what life was like as a miner in the 1800s and gives you an in-depth educational experience covering mining history and the geology of the region.
This above us right here, that's the floor for level 6. And it would go all the way across, but once level 6 was done being worked, you no longer needed to access it. You could take out all of that rock, combine these two stopes, and it leaves us with about 120 feet of open space.
This was super cool, and I would highly recommend doing a mine tour if you come up here. This is about 2 hours, and I feel like I could have spent 2 more hours learning about stuff down here. I definitely want to do another mine tour on the Keweenaw Peninsula at another point in time. I honestly want to get back to Colorado now and go do some mine tours. But anyway, I want to do some more mining historical sightseeing here in the Keweenaw today before we get to our final destination for the evening. So let's go ahead and get back on the road.
After touring the Quincy mine, my plan was to explore Calumet. Calumet was the heart of the Keweenaw copper boom and home to the Calumet and Hecla Mining Company. Today, you can visit Calumet's historic district, which has been revived with various small businesses as well as museums, which I had planned to spend time visiting, but were unfortunately closed for the season when I showed up. Luckily, walking or riding through town is free, and you can see all kinds of historic brick buildings along the main streets of town.
Now, a positive to this place not being open is I decided to spend the time I was going to spend in there grabbing a coffee, or at least what I thought was going to be a coffee. I went over to Keweenaw Coffee Works. It's just behind me here. You can actually see it right over here. I ended up grabbing one of their bacon, lettuce, avocado, tomato sandwiches, or a blat. I don't know if some of y'all have heard of that or not. I love blat sandwiches, but it was so good. I don't really eat a lot of sandwiches, but that was fantastic. And I also got something on their menu that was a seasonal drink, and it's supposed to be like a butterbeer from Harry Potter. I looked up and I just saw Hogsmeade on the menu, and I said, I want whatever the Hogsmeade drink is, just get it for me. I want the butterbeer. So I didn't get my coffee, which means I'm probably going to stop there tomorrow, but that was a good find. That was a good stop. So anyway, but let's go ahead and get back on the road. We're going to go ride part of the Copper Country National Scenic Byway. This has been on my list for a while, and then tomorrow we will finish the rest of it. So let's go. Well, the last 10 miles of that ride were honestly the best. The road kind of tucked in and started turning into like a tunnel of trees, basically. It was super, super pretty, and I just love the colors and the leaves out here. It is just gorgeous. But yeah, those last 10 miles are definitely the best part of Highway 41. But I decided I'm going to stay in Copper Harbor for the night. I was able to get a pretty cheap motel here in town, and there is a campground here that you can do like very bare bones camping for $20 a night. But I really wanted to take a hot shower tonight. And so I decided to get the hotel since it was easily under $100. I just had dinner here at the Harbor House in Copper Harbor. Harbor House is definitely known as one of the better restaurants in the Keweenaw Peninsula. It has been around for over 50 years. It's a German style restaurant, so they have schnitzel and all kinds of other German-esque things on the menu. I had some tenderloin medallions, which were incredible. Oh, it was so good. So good. And it came with like a couple of 4-cheese raviolis, as well as like a beef stroganoff kind of sauce and some mushrooms and some squash. And it was so good. I would definitely come back here if I was going to be up here in the Keweenaw Peninsula again. Another nice thing about the Harbor House is that it sits right here on this harbor, and it is absolutely beautiful, and so you get to enjoy this view while you're up there eating. I think I've got about 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes of daylight left, and I'm going to take you guys to a pretty cool spot to try and see the sunset. So one last thing, well, maybe for the day.
For sunset, I decided to head to the summit of Brockway Mountain, one of the most scenic places in the entire Keweenaw Peninsula. It's the highest above sea level drive between the Rocky Mountains and the Alleghenies, offering panoramic views of Lake Superior and even Isle Royale National Park when weather permits. Unfortunately, when I visited, it was very windy. I ended up going back up the following morning with hopes for better weather, but it was actually gustier than the evening prior. Regardless, it was totally worth visiting twice and is still a beautiful and enjoyable scenic drive. To wrap up my Keweenaw Peninsula road trip, I decided to take Michigan Route 26 along the rocky shores of Lake Superior south from Copper Harbor. This route is also known as Lakeshore Drive, and while it's only 25 miles in length, it features countless historical landmarks such as lighthouses, waterfalls, and beaches that are worth stopping to check out.
Today has just been awesome. The leaves are absolutely peaking, and I am having so much fun being a leaf peeper out here. Locals are really nice. I've been getting caught up when I stop talking to people and just kind of chatting about the area and all the history out here, and there's just so much to see and do, and the riding's been great on top of that. Highway 26 was awesome. I'm currently towards the southern end of it right now, and I've just had so much fun up here in the Keweenaw. I think 2 days. You could really do 3 days up here. There's just so much to see and do. And I only did one mine tour. There's so many other mine tours and so many other historical mining spots up here. And God, like I've genuinely enjoyed my time up here as a history nerd and just enjoying all the leaf peeping. It's been great. But it's time to head on to my next destination, and I might stop for dinner in Houghton on the way out, but we'll see. Let's get down the road and see where I end up next. So I just spent the last day exploring Marquette, and instead of taking y'all along for the ride for every little detail, kind of like I do in other videos, I decided to kind of just enjoy the day for myself and then kind of spark note it for y'all afterwards, because I'm basically filming this whole video over the course of a week, like I've already mentioned, and when you film back to back to back days, sometimes it gets a little exhausting. So to keep both of us entertained here, I decided to somewhat take the day off yesterday and just enjoy my time. Again, I mentioned this earlier in the video, and one of the things I really wanted to do on this trip was really enjoy my time in the UP. I slowed my time down every day. I'm only doing about 200 miles a day. Granted, they're not highway miles, so it does take a long time to get anywhere. It's definitely just a slower paced trip. But yesterday I did get to do a lot of things in Marquette. I started the day off yesterday going up Sugarloaf Mountain. There's a lot of steps on that hike. It's a short hike, but there's a lot of steps, so you can get to the top in 15 minutes-ish. That was incredible to watch the sun come up over Marquette. You can see Lake Superior from the top. You can see Marquette. You can see, I think the area is called Big Bay, and I bet on a clear day you could actually see the Keweenaw Peninsula from up there. It is just so pretty. After that, I went ahead and grabbed some coffee over at Contrast Coffee. It's a local coffee shop. They have a few different locations throughout the UP. Had breakfast and coffee there. Really quick stop. It was honestly so packed. I felt like I was in a Starbucks. Between college kids, Marquette is a college town, and just people coming in and grabbing a drink really fast. It was just super packed. So I was in and out in under 10 minutes there. I decided to go over to Presque Isle Park. It is a free park here in town, and I wanted to drive the little scenic loop and check out a pretty popular swimming hole there. It was only 65 degrees yesterday and the water's still pretty cold, so I didn't do any swimming, but Presque Isle Park is gorgeous. The water at Lake Superior right there is just crystal clear and blue. I spent probably an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours just walking around there. I ended up going back for sunset at the end of the day because I enjoyed it so much. I got to watch a bald eagle swoop down on probably a couple hundred seagulls, and they just took off over this lighthouse, and it was just so beautiful. I felt like I was at the ocean, but I was definitely at Lake Superior. And I think that's one thing that I've really enjoyed on this trip so far that I haven't mentioned, is even though I'm right next to this massive body of water, there's no salty grit in the air. There's no salt smell or that stinky beach smell. I grew up on the Gulf Coast, and stinky beach smell is absolutely a thing. If you're from that area, then you would totally know that. But yeah, it was just so enjoyable. After that, I did stop by the ore dock. I stopped at the ore dock on my way into town because I saw the harvest moon coming up over the lake when I was coming into town. And so I did get to see it at night, which was really cool. And then I decided to just stop in since I was in the downtown area anyway and see it during the day. And I'm glad I got to see it both times because it is a little bit different from day to night. But that is definitely an iconic thing to see here in Marquette. And if you want to see a modern ore dock being used, there actually is one that's active out by Presque Isle, and there was a boat having stuff loaded down into it, which was really cool. I don't know what they were loading, some type of ore, obviously, but you could see where the train track kind of came in up top, and then it would start kind of dumping through these little chutes down onto the boat, essentially. I found it very fascinating because I've just never seen something like that. So after spending the morning exploring all these little things in Marquette that I really wanted to check out, and none of them disappointed, I enjoyed so much of my time. I actually managed to get on one of the Pictured Rocks cruises that goes out of Munising. So I had to blast over to Munising in order to do that. It's about 45 minutes from here without stops. And then I did that for the afternoon. Was the cruise cool, and am I glad I did it? Yes. Would I do it again? I don't know, because I still want to try and kayak, and I still haven't gone into the actual Lakeshore area and just seen some of those overlooks by foot. And you can also hike and backpack and do all kinds of things in the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore. So I don't want to say it's the best way to see Pictured Rocks, but I'm definitely glad I got that experience. And once I've done all the things, I feel like I can give a true, valid like review of it. The Pictured Rocks cruise, I did the Spray Falls cruise. It takes about 2 hours. So between leaving Marquette, going to Munising, doing the cruise, and then coming back out here, it was about 4 to 4.5 hours of my time. And then for dinner, I did go over to Steinhaus. It was one of the many restaurants here in Marquette that was on my foodie bucket list. It is a German restaurant and the menu is pretty limited. There's like 3 or 4 different entrees total that you get to choose from. So it's slightly upscale, but I will say the vibe inside is not that bougie. They were listening to like a stick figure reggae radio the whole time I was in there, which I honestly loved. But my dinner was a beef, I don't even know how to, I don't remember what the other word was. Sauerbraten? Sauerbraten. I had a beef sauerbraten, and it was kind of like a pot roast on top of a spatzel, but it was super good. And of course, had to get some of their cheesecake. It had this raspberry compote on top, and it was so good. That meal was honestly incredible. I'm so glad that I ended up going there. It is officially time to head out of Marquette. I'm gonna grab one more coffee before I head out of town, and then we'll start heading a little bit more towards the eastern end of the UP, where I will be ending my adventure over the next 2 days. So I'm back in Munising, which is where I took the Pictured Rocks boat tour yesterday afternoon. And I do plan to go into Pictured Rocks just for a second to check out one of the overlooks, because I do want to see what it looks like when you're not on the water. But I did want to try another pasty spot on the way through. I feel like when you're in the UP, you have to try a handful of these because it's just something the area is known for. So I decided to stop here at Muldoon's. This is definitely one of the more famous kind of touristy must stops up here in the UP. They've been voted #1 best pasty like multiple times, but they do have traditional pasties. But I decided, since I've had traditional pasties in the past, that I wanted to try something different. And so this one is going to be a veggie pasty, and it's got broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, and onions kind of. So honestly, I didn't really read the whole description. I was just like, all right, we're gonna go for this because it's something different. Oh, and I did get a side of gravy as well. You can do gravy or ketchup here. I guess ketchup is a thing to put on pasties. I'm not gonna start a which way is better to eat a pasty war, but if you really feel like telling me how you eat pasties yourself, feel free to leave a comment down below. But yeah, let's go ahead and dig into this here. It's like a chicken pot pie without the cream or the chicken, but it's pretty good. I do like it. Let's try it with the gravy. Yeah, the gravy is definitely the way to go. I would totally order another one of these. This one has a lot of flavor, and it's probably because of all the vegetables in it. And this one, the bread isn't too thick, and it's not overpowering to the rest of the pasty, and this thing's just stuffed with vegetables, so, and potatoes, of course. But this is good. There's definitely people around me trying to eat, so I'm gonna go ahead and let all of us chat now. Everyone's been nice being quiet so I could film this really quick for y'all, but I'm gonna go ahead and eat this, let everyone chat, and then we're gonna get on to our next destination. Now, I couldn't leave this area without coming to Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore proper. Yesterday, like I said, I did the cruise in the afternoon, but I did want to try and check out the actual park boundary area before I left this part of the UP. So I only have time to see the Miners Castle overlook, which was gorgeous. It is so cool to look down on the water because it's this bright turquoisey blue, kind of emeraldy color. It just kind of depends where the rocks are below. It kind of changes the hue of the water. It's beautiful. Seeing the cliffs from the water yesterday was really cool, but you definitely don't get that like bright blue hue when you're on the water like you do up here. So that was super cool to experience. I could spend days in this park. I would love to come back and hike and backpack through this park at some point. Not in June though, because I have heard that the bugs here in the summer are absolutely atrocious. That's one thing that I will give props to right now, is there are no bugs at all, not even a single mosquito. So pros of being here in the fall. Another pro is there's not as many people. I am here on a Saturday and it's not as busy as I thought it was going to be, especially with all the fall colors. So pros and cons here, but yeah, I don't have a lot of time to spend here because I got to get down the road. So let's go.
Roughly 2 hours from Munising is the Great Lakes Shipwreck Museum in Whitefish Point. Over 200 of the 550 known major shipwrecks on Lake Superior are located near Whitefish Point, giving it its nickname, the Graveyard of the Great Lakes. The museum highlights maritime transport on the Great Lakes with artifacts and exhibits, plus you can tour a handful of buildings on the premises that have been restored, including the Lightkeeper's House, which was once used to operate the Whitefish Point Light Tower, the oldest operating lighthouse on Lake Superior. If you're a fan of museums, regional history, or maritime transport in general, this is a great museum to visit in the Upper Peninsula and was definitely a highlight of my trip.
I don't think I've ever been this close to Canada. I can actually see it from across the lake, which is so wild. My phone thinks I'm in Canada right now. That's how close I am. What a cool stop. Highly recommend. Alright, camp is set up and it was sprinkling on me whenever I got here, so I just wanted to rush and put camp up really quick and then get in the tent and be cozy for the evening. But I did stop and have dinner at a spot called the Inn in Paradise, and I had it on my map to check out while I was out here, and the food did not disappoint. I of course had to get some poutine because when you're this close to Canada, I feel like that's something you have to do, and they had a half order, which was still way too much food. That was easily for $7, that was easily a meal for one person, if not easily two people could have split that and been fine. But I also got some of their whitefish tacos, and whitefish is like the fish that Lake Superior is known for. You find it on a lot of menus out here. Fish and chips are also really popular to get out here, and that was on the menu there. But I just decided to get the tacos, and they came with like pickled red onion and slaw and some other stuff, and they were so good. But of course, I was getting ready to tab out, and then I remembered that they have this like world famous carrot cake there, and the guys that were sitting down the bar from me basically were like, you have to get it. Like, you can't come here and not get that if you've never been here, so order it. So I did, and by the way, that spot gets super busy. I walked in, and again, I'm kind of towards the end of the season here, and they told me it was going to be an hour wait for one person unless something opened up at the bar. So luckily a chair opened up at the bar, and I was able to sit there and get my food basically 10 minutes after I got there, which was great. But yeah, that carrot cake, let's just focus on that. That carrot cake was incredible. I actually brought it back with me to the campsite and have it in a to-go box on the bike right now because I'm totally gonna eat it in the morning for breakfast. I don't have any food spots picked out until tomorrow afternoon. So yeah, I think that'll be breakfast tomorrow. But now I'm tucked into my little tent for the evening. It's great to be back in here talking with you guys. Brings back memories of Shenandoah National Park last year. But yeah, tomorrow's our final day out here in the UP, and we're almost out of here. Just a couple more things left to see on this trip. I'm actually pretty excited to go to bed pretty early tonight. So I'll see y'all tomorrow. I'm so glad that I brought this carrot cake with me to camp because I'm not really sure when my next meal is going to be. I didn't bring any of my camp kitchen stuff on this trip because I was only going to be camping a couple of times, and plus I needed a place to put all of my heated gear when I didn't have it on. So that's what the other bag on the back of my bike is being used for right now. That's normally like my camp kitchen. But yeah, this carrot cake from last night is good, and I'm so excited to have it for breakfast. So my first stop of the day, which is my final day of this Upper Peninsula trip, is to Keweenaw Falls. This is about a 15-20 minute drive from where I camped last night. It is a part of the state park. It's just a different part of it. Technically, I rode past this last night, but like I mentioned, I wanted to make sure and see the Shipwreck Museum while the buildings were still open. So I decided to go there first yesterday and save this for this morning. And honestly, I think that was the perfect decision because when I got to the Keweenaw Falls Upper Falls parking lot, there was nobody here an hour and a half ago. And now, as y'all can kind of see behind me, this parking lot's starting to get packed and there's a ton of people starting to head out to leaf peep and look at the waterfall. There's over 300 waterfalls in the Upper Peninsula alone. I did get to stop and see a few of them on my trip around the Upper Peninsula over the past few days. I had to cut a few out due to time constraints, and there's just so much to see up here. But if you enjoy stopping for waterfalls, this is definitely one you have to stop and check out. But I spent an hour and a half here. I could have spent a lot more time here, but that's all I have time for today. But we got 2 more things left on the list, so let's get back on the road.
The next and almost final stop on my UP road trip is the Soo Locks. This vital waterway connects Lake Superior to the lower Great Lakes and are the busiest lock system by cargo tonnage in the world. Built in the 1850s, these engineering marvels lift ships nearly 21 feet to bypass the treacherous St. Mary's River rapids. 7,000 to 10,000 vessels make the passage between mid-March and mid-January, carrying an average of 80 million tons of cargo through each year. Ships from all over the world make the 2,342-mile trek from the Atlantic Ocean to Duluth, Minnesota through the Soo.
Of course, I wasn't going to leave the Upper Peninsula without stopping at the Soo Locks. You can get in and out of here pretty quickly if you just want to kind of stop and check it out, which is what I'm doing. I unfortunately don't have a ton of time that I can stay here because I do have a dinner deadline tonight. I have to get somewhere before it closes for the season. But you can wait around all day. They do have a schedule inside that tells you when the boats are going to be coming in and out of here, but the next boat's not going to be here for 2 hours. So unfortunately, I don't have that much time to sit here and wait around, but I wish I could, but I guess I have to come back another time. But yeah, I think if you're going to be doing any kind of UP trip, I think it's totally worth stopping and checking this out before you head out of the UP, which is what I'll be doing next by going over the Mackinac Bridge. Oh, and before I forget, definitely take the Whitefish Bay Scenic Byway from Paradise, Michigan over to the Soo Locks, especially in the fall. That was incredible. I was not expecting that road to have so much good fall colors, but it was so vibrant, and the cloudiness outside today definitely helped with that, but that was a hidden gem. I was not expecting that to be that good. But yeah, add that one to your map for sure. I'm currently hearing my first sirens in over a week. I haven't heard any like firefighters, EMS, police, which has been so crazy. The UP is just such a different place. It's definitely a slower paced lifestyle up here, and I honestly just love it. I'm actually about to have to get on the interstate to get to the Mackinac Bridge, and I haven't ridden an interstate in a week. It's been awesome.
The Mackinac Bridge, also known as the Mighty Mac, is iconic to Michigan and is the 7th longest suspension bridge in the world by total suspended length and the longest suspension bridge in the Western Hemisphere. Famous for gusty winds and metal grates, the Mackinac Bridge can be pretty thrilling on a motorcycle.
It was a windy day riding across the Mackinac. There was times where I was like pushing the bike kind of sideways, trying to get it to go straight. If you've ever ridden in high winds, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so both lanes were open today. Sometimes you can only ride across on the graded side, and a lot of people say it's really scary or nerve-wracking. Metal graded bridges don't necessarily freak me out too bad. I've ridden on numerous of them in the rain, just all kinds of weather, but if I had the option to not ride on metal graded bridges, I'm gonna take the other option. So of course I stayed on the concrete side for most of the way. Now that I finally have crossed that off my list, because I wanted to cross over that for a long time now, I'm officially out of the UP, and man, I just had so much fun up here the last like 5.5-ish days that I've been riding through the area. I wish I would have spent more time in the Porcupine Mountains, and that's something that I've thought of a lot on this trip is, man, I should have started all the way in Ironwood or whatever that town is. It's closer towards Minnesota, and just, you know, maybe added a couple more days, but hey, I'm definitely going to come back to this area. The Upper Peninsula blew me away. I just feel like this is such a hidden gem, especially in the fall, and I love the low-key vibe of the Upper Peninsula. I love that, you know, you really have to want to be up here. It's not easy necessarily to get to. The closest, you know, airport maybe is Green Bay. And so yeah, it's just not an easy area to get to, and I feel like that's what also keeps tourism down to an extent up there, is because it's a harder area to get through than other fall leaf peeping types of regions in the country. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to putt around here. I need to get back on the road because I have to go to a restaurant that's closing for the season today, and they're only open for a few more hours. And then tomorrow we're going to be riding the Tunnel of Trees and checking out a couple other things here in Michigan before I leave the state. I don't want to say for good, because I'll definitely be back, but for this trip. But until the next one, I'll see y'all on the road. Later, y'all.